Welcome back, everybody. So apparently, and this is real, this isn't satire, apparently some psychopaths in Washington actually think it's okay not to pay the furloughed workers after the government shutdown has ended. Just whoops, no paycheck, you know? We hope you enjoyed your new position as a volunteer for the richest country on the planet. God bless America.
With regard to whether the furloughed civilian employees of the federal government will receive back pay, it is true that in previous shutdowns, many or most of them have been paid for the time that they were furloughed. But there is new legal analysis. I don't know the details. I just saw a headline this morning. I'm not read in on it, and I haven't spoken to the White House about it. But there are some legal analysts who are saying that that may not be appropriate or necessary in terms of the law requiring that back pay be provided. So I'm sure that'll be there will be a lot of discussion about that. But there are legal analysts who think that that is not something that government should do. That, if that is true, that should turn up the urgency and the necessity of the Democrats doing the right thing here. Even more pain, more than I just listed, for more people.
Well, thank God for the legal analysts. You know, we might actually have to pay some people their money. This is what I mean when I talk about logic and rationale devoid of any kind of morality. You say that paying these people may not be acceptable. The people are expecting pay. It blows my mind. Because obviously, the TSA guy making $45,000 a year in Newark, he's the problem. Not the $1 trillion Pentagon budget, right? Or the years and years of blowing around sand in the Middle East, no. It's the woman at the USDA office in Des Moines who needs to be taught a lesson of fiscal responsibility. What are we doing? Well, we need to send a message. These shutdowns are really expensive. Oh, really? Now we're worried about what's expensive? Were we worried about what was expensive when we spent $1.5 billion on a new embassy in Baghdad with a freaking pool in it? Or was the austerity when we gave Wall Street a blank check in 2008? Oh, I forgot. Those were your friends. Yeah, got it. I love how it's always the janitors, the air traffic controllers, the VA nurses. They're the ones who always get caught up in the gears. Like, sorry, Brenda, I know you have bills to pay. I know you have to pay rent, but we're really busy trying to own the libs here. Yeah, you get it? Because imagine telling your landlord that even though you worked, you didn't get paid because a bunch of psychopaths in Congress decided they wanted to cosplay civil war. Imagine what he's going to say to that. At the same time, you have landlords all over America who are narking on their tenants to ICE. That way they can go ahead and get them all kicked out so they can liquidate their assets and move to Florida. This is what happens when you let people whose entire jobs is raising money and tweeting run a fucking government. These people haven't worked an actual job since they were kids in 1997, slinging papers for the Washington Post. And even then, they probably phoned it in and just threw it in the yard without actually putting it on the doorstep like myself did. But yeah, let's punish the postal worker who has 2 kids and a busted knee. That's really going to show them. That should really go ahead and move things along to fixing our problems here in America. Shared sacrifice, right? That's what they say. Is it going to be the government contractors who are sacrificing? No. Is it going to be the billionaires who are sacrificing? Is it going to be the corporations who are sacrificing? No. It's going to be Brenda from HR who works for the EPA. She's going to be one to bear the cross of this bullshit. She's going to nail herself to the fiscal cross while Raytheon goes ahead and gets another contract from the Saudis. Here's a wild idea, right? Whenever there's a government shutdown, since it's the people who are running the country who decide when it's broken and when it should be shut down, maybe these are the people who shouldn't be getting paid. Maybe it's the officials who show up a little bit hungover because they took some of the discretionary cash that they had and blew it at the strip club. Maybe they should skip a couple paychecks. You break it, you bought it. You shut it down, you don't get a check. Let's start there. And let's see how long these shutdowns actually last. But what do I know? I just work in finance. I just listen to normal people's struggles and woes all day as the prices of things continue to creep up, as their pensions and their social security checks really begin to dwindle in the shadow of the impacts of the tariffs, and they have to think about refinancing, or they have to think about selling their home and moving in with their kids. No, the economy and everything is working just fine. Job reports coming in saying that we're losing jobs all over our country month after month. No big deal. Just shut it down. That way there's no actual numbers to freak out about. See, that's the thing I always talk about. It's the cruelty that we should expect, but we're always surprised about. I wish I could come on here and actually not have anything to talk about. I can talk about, how it's a beautiful day, how I love the cafe that I go to, how I love my wife, but I can't do that because every day there's a new horror that we need to talk about in America. as we just continue down the descent. And now people are expected, hundreds of thousands of people are expected to show up at work, do their jobs, some of which have grave consequences if they don't show up, like air traffic controllers, police, military, all those people. People who work for ICE, I guarantee they're not going to be missing their bonuses. No, sir. I bet they're going to be getting paid. Yes, they will, because they're doing God's work out there, apparently. I love that we spend $800 billion a day on the military, but when it comes time to pay Bob the janitor who sweeps the floors at the Pentagon, his $32,000 a year, they're like, yeah, the budget's just a little bit tight this month, but hopefully you can just survive on your patriotism and your VA benefits. Hopefully those actually stick around. Because I'll tell you what, you cut the VA benefits for the vets at this point, the vets are holding on for dear life as far as actually supporting any of this bullshit as it is. This isn't what any of them signed up for. I know a lot of you out there, you don't like the military, you don't like the vets. Listen, as a vet, I understand these people. I understand where they're coming from. And I understand how strong indoctrination is and how hard it is to break away from. But it comes a time where the consequences of reality are going to hit you like a hammer. It's going to shake you loose of any kind of brainwashing that you actually have. Either that or you're going to charge into the darkness and glorious battle of the next civil war with your bright fucking red MAGA hat and your Don't Tread on Me flag as you stand shoulder to shoulder with a government oppressor. The people who are being affected by this, they're not lobbyists. They're people who wear lanyards, who go to their little government cubicle, they sit there and wait for lunch to show up where they have a little 6-cent sub from Subway with their name on it. And Congress is like, yeah, fuck them. These people are operating like a villain in a Christopher Nolan movie. You know, just an abstract motive, unclear objectives, and just complete disregard for human life. And you know what's next, right? Next, they're going to be trying to, instead of actually bringing these people back and giving them their jobs, they're going to try to outsource it to AI. I mean, that's where Palantir comes in. That's where BlackRock comes in. Yeah, maybe I'll put on a little tinfoil hat for that one. Maybe. But at this point, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. We replaced 200,000 federal employees with a bot that just feeds you transcripts of Ben Shapiro podcast. Good job, America. I mean, this is a war on the working class. In all reality, this is a war on the working class. And I don't mean like a fake one like Tucker Carlson talks about. I mean a genuine attack on people who are living paycheck to paycheck. You think government workers who are getting laid off right now, who probably aren't going to get their jobs back when the government actually opens up again, you think they're the ones who are like really living large? No, they're not. You know anything about living in the DC area? I do. I used to live there. It's wildly expensive. On an $80,000 a year salary, you can't even afford a studio apartment 20 miles outside of the city. That's a fact. So what you're telling these people is their time, by not paying them, you're telling them that their time has no value, no real value. The CEOs, the billionaires, the oligarchs, their time has value, right? They're still going to get their appointments. They're still going to get all the benefits that they can by juicing the sweet teat of the government. But you're just going to have to get in line at the soup kitchen. You're going to have to go to one of those churches in Virginia with your family and your black SUVs and a big long line. You see them all the time out there and hope that there's some extra food in that food pantry. Although those supplies are actually dwindling right now because we cut US aid, and that cut what, $500 billion from food assistance? So shelters and food pantries all over the place are just kind of running dry at this point. But hey, like I said, hope you can live off patriotism. But don't worry, in the end, Raytheon stock is up. Right? Stock markets are doing just fine. Congress is on recess. And you can always open up an Etsy shop. You know, you don't have to work for anybody. You know, you can make gluten-free, lactose-free pregnancy cookies and sell them in little jars on Etsy. You know, it's a nice market. You know, you can sell pillows on TikTok while your landlord goes ahead and jacks up your rent, which you can't afford as it is, because some big buyer in Dubai bought the entire building. But no, everything's fine, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely ridiculous that they're not going to be paying government employees when they come back to work, if they're able to come back to work. I think it's absolutely criminal. It's criminal, especially if you expect them to keep the lights on while you're out. Right? While you're out having your little dinner parties, while you're out getting your little press meetings, you know, these people are still grinding away, doing their jobs, barely making a living, in a job that they should be proud that they're actually participating in keeping this country running, and you're going to turn around and stab them in the back and not give them any money and expect there to be no consequences at all because some fiscal advisor said, you know, we don't have to do it. If you're still here at this point, ladies and gentlemen, like and subscribe. Think about becoming a member. Give a donation. Why not? We like money. That's always nice. Keep the channel running. no sponsorships on this channel. We had one from Dose. They wanted to give me $1,000 for one ad, but I'm not a snake oil salesman, right? We like to talk about these things because these things are important to talk about, because you out there need to understand that you're not insane for thinking that everything is kind of a shit show like it is. But this is reality, and we're all here. So again, like and subscribe and all that. Thanks for stopping by.